Today, creating tomorrow. A better tomorrow.
I'm really pleased to be here. Thank you. I'm from New York City, and I work for Arcadis US, and I'm going to talk about what's next in food and water. So, Ben Grumbles is the president of the US Water Alliance. He's a very quotable guy. And he said that there's no better time than now for the public to appreciate the water, energy, food nexus. He calls it the liquid triangle of life. We've heard some stats already about population growth. We create a lot of thirsty and hungry people. 6 billion in 2000, projection of 2050 of 9 billion people. We're currently at 7. 50 years of growth, incredible growth of population projected. And we have an unsustainable situation with water. Over the past 100 years, water has been growing, use has been growing at twice the rate of population growth. Completely unsustainable. So this is the world's total water sink, right? It's the total water. And if you look at it, only 2.5% of that sink is fresh, or as you say, sweet. And 70% of that is used for agriculture. So by 2050, we're projecting an increase, a usage need of water to feed these additional mouths that are entering our lives. And typically you want to irrigate agriculture. It gives you better yields, it gives you better looking produce, it gives you larger produce. So typically we irrigate to get the 100 to 400 yields that we need to feed our planet. And irrigated agriculture accounts for only 40% of the world's food production. And the water produced for those, to create those yields, 15 to 35% are withdrawals that are considered scientifically unsustainable. So here are some facts. 20% of all cropland is irrigated, but it produces 40% of the world's population. That's the delta that we're talking about and why we irrigate. By 2050, global population growth will require food production to increase by 70%. Daunting. And to meet this demand, we have to find an additional 25% more water. 80% of the land that we farm relies on rainfall. You and I consume about 3 liters of water a day. But when it comes to eating and feeding ourselves, well, the water needs go through the roof. If we're vegetarians in the developed world, we can consume about 2,000 liters of water to produce the food that we're eating. If we're high beef vegetarian steakhouse people, we're going to be hitting 5,000 to 6,000 liters required to produce the food that we will intake on a given day. And the livestock also requires a lot of water. And livestock, as we've also heard today from the presentations, poops and gives runoff into our receiving waters. Nitrogen and phosphorus are the 2 prime examples of nutrients. They're also the same nutrients that we like to put as fertilizers to grow our crops. So you get this runoff, we're going to be planting more fields, having more cattle, having more feedlots and livestock, and we're going to increasingly degrade the ecosystems of our receiving waters. So, here's an artistic view of the Netherlands. Off to your right, you have the North Sea. You've got the seafloor there, probably a nice dike that was described earlier, and an aquifer. And if you look at Europe, 60% of European cities today with populations greater than 100,000, groundwater is being depleted faster than it can be replenished. And in the developed world, that number from 2025 will increase by another 18%, and by 2025 in the developing world, it will increase 50%. Developed world 18%, developing world 50%. And now you overlay some compounding factors like climate change. So it's already daunting enough to find the water we need, and now we're going to have to aggravate the problem with climate change. And the Intergovernment Panel on Climate Change predicts yields from rain-dependent agriculture could be down by 50%, and 80% of the land that we farm in the world needs that rain. That's double trouble. And then you add another layer, something the Dutch know very well, and that is seawater intrusion. Because the more we deplete our groundwater and pump, the more the rainwater, which is the seawater, 97.5% of the remaining waters, is seeking to fill those voids. And this is a big problem in the world. So, water scarcity. Water scarcity is a real issue. 1.8 billion people are projected to deal with water scarcity on a daily basis by 2025. 3/4 of the world's population in 2025 is projected to deal with some form of water stress in their communities. Freshwater supplies are unlikely to keep up with global demand by 2040, increasing political instability, hobbling economic growth, and endangering world food markets. Episodes of violence relating to water. It's not something Bond-esque or something for the future. It's now 69 water source conflicts since the year 2000. And they're in places you've heard of, like the United States, the state of Michigan, a project that Arcadis was involved with. Bolivia, Cochabamba. In France, the Meuse River. Nigeria. China. Australia. These conflicts are real, and they're projected to grow. So, it's a bleak picture, right? I'm here to give you hope. There is a lot we can do. Being an Arcadian, I feel that we can do a lot of it, and I'm going to give you some constructive technological examples where we're being innovative to tackle this challenge. We need new technologies because we're faced with population growth and limited resources. We have to come up with disruptive technologies. Desalination is an example that we're in the midst of a disruptive technology. Membrane filters on your left are changing the landscape of the affordability to desalt water. No longer do you have to go to burn it off and distill it. You can do that in Saudi Arabia. It's pretty hard to do in Southern California. And the growth projection of this market in the CapEx billions of membrane designs and installations is enormous. Previous speaker talked about the importance of phosphorus depletion. It's expected in 80 to 100 years, there'll be no more phosphorus in the only 5 countries that produce the phosphorus in our world. So we need to find it. Well, we know where it is. It's in our wastewater effluents. We need to think of our wastewater effluents as opportunities for phosphorus harvesting. And the Water Environment Research Foundation has convinced everybody to date that there is the technology available to do this. So you'll be seeing a lot of projects, including some in Holland, very soon to actively do this on a full-scale basis. We can move water where there is currently a lot of water to places where there is not enough water. This is a project in Brazil that Arcadis is doing in the São Francisco River Integration Project, where we're wheeling water to the tune of servicing ultimately 12 million people who are not served enough with potable water today. Aquifer storage and recovery, something the Netherlands does in great abilities. They're one of the leaders in it. The US is another leader. The need for aquifer storage recovery is great. Basically, this is when it rains a lot, you collect it, store it, and pump it into the ground and use it when you don't have enough rain on another day. ASR. ASR is something that's going to grow. David Pine says by 2020, it wouldn't surprise me to see 19 million cubic meters per day of ASR capacity in the world. It's a great technology, a great solution. Indoor urban farming, something else you do. Okay, bring the farms to the people who live in the cities. Use some of our blighted land or some of our brownfields and convert them into indoor urban farming environments, because you can control the environment, you can manage the water, you can precisely irrigate and then reclaim the water that is not used in an irrigation process and reuse it, and you can shorten the lifespan, the growing time, on plants by 50%. Great quote in the bottom here. A building of 100 square meters and 14 layers of plants could provide a daily diet of 200 grams of fresh fruit, vegetables to the entire population of Den Bosch, a beautiful city, by the way. About 140,000 people. Indoor farming is real. This is a fabulous project. I saw it recently. This is Floriade. This is creative land use planning in your backyard here. How far is it? 15, 20 minutes away? Longer? An hour, okay. Still getting my geography right. It has some great principles about why it was created in the first place. We are native to our place. Okay, we're going to use the existing landscape. Our waste is food, right? Sun is our friend, it's our income. We're going to drive it with solar energy. Our air, soil, and water are healthy. We're not going to pollute the place with runoff and construction debris while we build it, and we're going to return it back to the community in a better form to be used as a regional agricultural business activity. Great project. Are you calling me off? I still have a minute and 18 seconds.
That's right.
And then you get places like Los Angeles, where some geniuses years ago said, when it rains, because we have a rainy season in Los Angeles, we're going to push all the water out into the Pacific Ocean and capture none of it. So now they're doing a rain barrel project. We did this in 2010 for the city of Los Angeles to conserve water, reduce runoff, and improve local water quality. It's a basic technology that's coming back into vogue. Reuse. Purple lines mean reclaimed water, reused water. The economic model is now such that the private sector has caught on and say, yes, it makes sense for us to invest in these facilities. 188 new wastewater reuse facilities and desal facilities were invested upon by the private sector in 2012. And it's projected to serve 1.6 billion in 2025. That's great news when you move the private sector's interest. And the last solution is just a great picture of a great city, Rotterdam, Frank City. And we've been working with the city of Rotterdam to climate-proof them by 2025. They want to be climate-proof. And Pete Durka, who's working on that, says Rotterdam is the perfect showcase for climate change adaptation. And it's where we have our next celebration in April on the Delta cities. All right, so that's the solution set that Arcadis can offer for some very daunting problems. And I consider you to imagine the result.
Today, creating tomorrow. A better tomorrow.